Well, hey, welcome to the Geeker Seeker. Once again, I am Anthony here with a supplement to the review that I just made on the Batman versus Superman. And this supplement specifically is about the critics, because before I went to go see the movie, if you type in Batman versus Superman before showtimes and tickets pop up on Google, critiques popped up, Rotten Tomatoes. So I read it with, a little tongue-in-cheek a little bit, because here's the thing. With a superhero movie, okay, you're not really comparing apples to oranges. You're not going to see Dr. Zhivago. You're not going to see 2001 Space Odyssey. You're going to see a movie based on a comic book, whereas it's kind of like comparing a graphic novel to, like, maybe one of the great American novels from Faulkner or one of the American greats, okay? So, Steinbeck, something like that. So, the fact that these critics start off with an attitude already, in that the Rotten Tomatoes and the New York Times critique on Batman versus Superman started out something with the air of kind of condemning all superhero movies as a genre for being overblown or over dramatic or whatever. Well, let me educate the critics for a second. You don't judge a superhero movie the way you're going to judge The Revenant, for instance. Okay? The Revenant is your throwback to a classic film genre. And we're essentially in a point in our history as human beings and as filmmakers where you need to understand, we have classic rock, and then there was new wave, post-punk, the 90s, and then now it's, I don't really keep up with it that much. I'm really into surf guitar, but that's not the point. The point is that, you've got the classic era of film, which probably goes all the way through the 70s and perhaps even in pretty far into the 80s, until processing power started giving directors and visual effects artists options to really start pushing the envelope. And now the envelope has been pushed so far, and you could probably say the fulcrum of that envelope was the Phantom Menace. Before the Phantom Menace, we'd never really seen a movie so heavily computer driven as that. So we're in a new age of film. So when you try to compare a superhero movie, which is not trying to be Dr. Zhivago, it's not trying to be, any classic film, it's not trying to do that, then you need to maybe step back out of your perspective. And I personally kind of think maybe it's a little ego-driven, as if your fine art world of film is too advanced for pop art, which is what a lot of gallery artists say about comic book art, which I'll go to my grave just nodding my head in defiance of that notion, because that, to me, is ridiculous. If you don't learn how to draw the human form, how are you going to criticize a group of people that are experts in drawing the human form? It doesn't really add up. So, to criticize the superhero movie as film, the way to approach this movie is to criticize it as an action film, because that's ultimately what it is. And as an action film, it works. Again, I'm going to go back to the only real criticism in the craft of the film that I had, and I just did it inadvertently, shaking the camera drives me nuts. No reason for it. We get it. All right, I impulsively went to go see it in 3D, which normally I refuse to see 3D, but I just impulsively decided to go see it, and that was the show that was on at the time, so I'm like, all right, what is it, $2 more? Go for it, I don't care. But every time there's a hit, you really don't need to shake the camera to drive home that hit, and there again, the action sequences don't have more impact, excuse the pun, by shaking the camera. You're not bringing any sensationalistic drama, or you're not bringing the sensation of a fight to me in the seat. Is all you're doing is distracting me and thinking, why did they do this? And it pulls. And I'll give you a good example. The camera work in Daredevil, where Daredevil is descending a flight of stairs, simultaneously fighting an entire motorcycle gang. Now, that camera work was smooth, and they allowed the action to be the focus, not a shaky camera. And that was one of the best, honestly, that was the best fight scene ever. So, to see that last night, and now to see this fight, a Batman versus Superman with a shaky camera, to me just appeals to my craft, in that I would have never made that choice. Okay? If you want to convey good superhero action, you don't want to shake the camera. You're not helping anybody. Storyboard the fight out better. Do something to make the fight better, but don't shake the camera like we have no imaginations. I think it's trite, it's sensationalistic, and honestly, if you want to get down to the bare bones of critiques about cinema, shaking the camera in an action sequence has no place in cinema at all. So just stop it. All of you DPs and directors out there that think I don't care about lens flares. I'm not the biggest J.J. Abrams fan. I really like Super 8. And if he wants to shoot, have a lenser, shoot a light at the lens to make lens flares, great, man. Sometimes it's really beautiful, but shaking the camera for an action sequence to try to sensationalistically bring the fight to me as if I'm in it, shut up. Get out of town. Stop it. It's trite. It's old. It's yesterday's paper. Clearly I'm passionate about this subject, and clearly I have a strong opinion about what constitutes proper critiquing of film. Okay, so if you want to critique a superhero movie as a classic film, you are not critiquing films well enough to have the audience that you're garnering, whoever you are. I don't even know who you are. But I'm just saying, if you critique a superhero movie as a classic film, you're missing the point. It is not a classic film. It's a comic book brought to motion. Anyway, that is all I have. Very strong opinions here after the Batman vs. Superman film, and my reaction to the critics of Batman vs. Superman, and also the crafting of that film, because clearly here at the Geeker Seeker, we don't like the shaky camera. Yeah, man, it was really killer. What do you think of that? That's not helping anybody. Give me a break. Thanks for your time.